allowing us to co-present this event. For those of you who do not know what NAHREP is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. We are 43,000 members nationwide. We have about 200 chapters around the country, and we are a purpose-driven organization with a mission to advance sustainable homeownership for the Hispanic community. We also promote the acquisition of generational wealth through real estate and the empowerment of our real estate professionals. We have been the voice of the Hispanic community for over 20 years. And again, GCAAR, thank you so much for allowing us to co-present this event and to participate in this amazing endeavor.
It's a pleasure to work alongside you. And now on behalf of GCAAR, it's a pleasure to introduce the president of our board, Harrison Beecher. Harrison.
Good afternoon, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you. I'd like to send a special welcome to all of our GCAAR members and a special Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. From the beginning of my presidency and leadership, it's been an important part for me and the board of directors to elevate all of our members and create space for all voices to be heard and for people to level up. And that's a part of what we're doing here with the History and Power Real Estate series. So I would like to introduce our moderator for this conversation, Ileann Jimenez-Sepulveda of Long and Foster Chevy Chase. She's been a GCAAR member for almost 23 years and currently serves as vice chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and is 50% of the Sepulveda team. Together with her husband, Hector, they serve the DMV proudly, and they are fluent in English and Spanish. So she's leading us, and she's out here selling houses at a high level. I'm grateful for what you guys are leading, and I'd like to hand this over to Ileann to get us going. Thank you all for putting this on today.
Thank you, Harrison. Rookie mistake. Thank you, Harrison. I am honored today to moderate an amazing panel of realtors who just so happen to be Latino and fabulous. I am so excited for you to meet these superstars. They make me proud to be their colleague and inspire Orgullo Latino. And today we will celebrate that pride and sentiment. We have 55 minutes to engage in an interesting conversation about the real estate industry, the roles we play within this context, and highlighting a handful of the Latino realtors within GCAAR, for which there are many. It is a personal choice that I choose Latino in reference as collectively or individually. Hispanic and Latino are often interchangeable, and though they mean actually two different things, Hispanic refers to people who speak Spanish or are descendant of Spanish-speaking populations, while Latino, like Spain, while Latino refers to people who are from or descendant of people of Latin, like Brazil. In this conversation, a panelist may choose to use either based on their. So without further ado, please welcome Cher Castillo of McNerney and Associates, Andres Serafini and Daniel Llerena of Arla, Lou Vivas of Long and Foster, and finally, Maria Menendez and Eddie Suarez of Compass. Thank you all for your presence and participation today. Before we begin, I asked them all to do a little homework for me. If you could share with us how many years you've been a licensed realtor. Maria, 17, 7, 15, 7, 20. We're collectively about almost 100 years of seasoned and wisdom of 100 years of real estate. So I'm here with the powerhouses. I think one of the things that I wanted to share is that numbers are important. And they demonstrate strength and they demonstrate power. And I want to paint you a picture at this moment where Latinos stand in the United States. And according to the Pew Research Center and the Census Bureau, in 2021, the Latino population reached more than 62 million people. We are currently 19% of the US population, and we're hitting 20% likely by next year. And let's be clear that these numbers are only for those who claimed or identified as Hispanic or Latino. There are many in our community who don't use these labels or use different labels, and they don't identify with their heritage for many reasons. That's another conversation. But the stat that makes the most sense to share with you today is regarding Hispanic home ownership. In 2021, the Hispanic home ownership rate increased from 48.4% up from 47.5% in 2019, according to NAHREP, the National Association of Real Estate Professionals. And although those of us who are here on this panel serve many communities, all communities, this figure is being studied by the Urban Institute, who projects that Latinos will account for 70% of home ownership growth over the next 20 years. So for all attendees here, Latino and non-Latino, this number will be critical for how you grow your business plans moving forward. So let's begin. Cher Castillo. Cher hails from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, Puerto Cabezas, also known as La Costa Atlántica, and our sole Afro-Latina on this panel. She previously owned her own brokerage from 15 out of the last 20 years of real estate that she's been in real estate. Cher, tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much for allowing me to be on this amazing panel with amazing other realtors. I am so honored. But a little bit about myself. I am the team lead at Cher Castillo and Company at McInerney Associates, as you mentioned, also known as Flip Queen DC. I fell in love with real estate when I bought my first house at 22 years old. And at 25, I got licensed and started my own brokerage, in which I had for 7 years. And then I decided I wanted to follow my other passion of development. So I started my own brokerage and development company and have been doing development and real estate brokerage since then. I absolutely love everything about real estate, clearly, everything from sales and leasing on the residential and commercial side, but also development from ground up development to cosmetic flips. So it just gives me great joy to wake up every morning and I just love doing exactly what I do, which is everything real estate.
Thank you, Cher. And there's so much, if you follow all of these people on IG or Facebook, you'll see the amazing things they do. Andres, both Colombian and Italian, you are the founder of the Washingtonian Group and vice president at ARLA. I was fascinated to hear your management techniques, but really tell us a little bit more about who you are, Andres.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with these amazing realtors that I'm so impressed with. I've been fortunate to have been able to practice real estate here in the DMV for the better half of almost 2 decades. I joined ARLA about 8 years ago, where I hooked up with leadership and really ingrained in what they were doing. I became vice president, and they were able to help me, as you mentioned, start the Washingtonian Group, which has been a sales force here that I've been taking a lot of pride in growing. We have a strong learning curve over the years, but through those 8 years, we've been able to really serve our community and help reach home ownership, which is obviously the #1 goal. And I'm just so honored to be here with everybody and to continue serving this wonderful community that we live in.
Thank you, Andres. Ana Maria. Ana Maria from Cali, Colombia. You took a leap from the World Bank to the real estate industry. Those are 2 big careers. And though you were told this was a risky move, you proved that you could take the leap and be successful in your second career. Ana Maria, tell us more about that.
Well, thank you, Ileann, and thank you, everybody. It's wonderful being part of this wonderful community and this group of realtors. Yes, I was born, as you can tell from my accent, and in Colombia. And I studied economics and came to the bank, to the World Bank. But at the bank, I felt small. And my world was really tiny. It was a little bubble. I didn't feel I belonged. And I really lacked of human contact, like community and family and all that. And so I decided to find out something else. And in the meantime, I needed the money. I was a single mom of 2. So I found that somebody needed an assistant for real estate. And so, although humbling, it was the most amazing leap I did. And I learned a lot from this person and decided that I didn't want to be an assistant and started doing my own job in real estate. And I love realtors. I think they're the most wonderful people, generous. And I've been just very blessed to be able to go through this. My sphere of influence was tiny. I'm sharing this because if somebody is out there listening and think they can't, they can. My sphere of influence was tiny, but I treat them like family because they were my family. I didn't have anybody else. And they're my cheerleaders. And I took the rentals that nobody else wanted. And little by little, I did get where I am, which is a wonderful place. And I'm very thankful.
Thank you, Ana Maria. Daniel, you're from Lima, Peru, and I'm still holding my jaw after hearing about your first year in real estate, selling 34 homes. That is not your typical first year. Daniel, tell us more about this. Oh, you're muted. Tell us more about you.
Sorry about that. See, rookie mistake, right? But I do want to thank you for choosing me and being part of this panelist. This is amazing realtors. I've been able to work with some of them. But yeah, so yeah, 34 houses my first year. I'm also impressed myself. You know, I've been in real estate for 7 years. I was a banker for 12 years prior to this. I didn't know anything about real estate, to be honest. I just knew that jumping in this industry was not going to be easy. So all I wanted to do the first year and 2 years is just learn everything I could. So I literally was a sponge. I was just grabbing everyone's, information. I was helping every realtor that didn't want to do their dirty job, like they didn't want to do inspection. No, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know everything from a electrical panel to an HVAC system, how to read the ages. I did everything possible, open houses on the weekdays, on the weekends, evenings. I did 2 open houses if I had to on the weekends. I even Uber just to learn the neighborhoods. So, it just, I knew that I had to build my book of business and I had to do it the first 2 years. It's just learning as much as I can. And now I'm here.
Now you're Daniel Llerena?
Now.
Lou, thank you so much, Daniel. Lou, originally from Nicaragua and living in Northwest, your community work in Columbia Heights permeates on many levels with neighborhood populations and in partnership with local commerce. Please tell us more about what you're doing and who you are, Lou.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I grew up in Montgomery County from Nicaragua, came when I was 10 months old, and my family lives in New York. I was, as a little child, one of the things that really inspired me to get into real estate is I was, constantly taking my family to open houses because I wanted them to move to the area, wanted to be close to my family. As a Latino, there's Latinos tend to live in intergenerational homes more often. I currently live in one with my mom, the kids, everybody. And so, living in, I grew up in Montgomery County, went to the University of Maryland, then moved to Washington, DC, Columbia Heights, which is the neighborhood that I've really called home for 21 years now. And I love it. I love it so much. My daughter is 14. She's grown up in the neighborhood. I've been very active in the neighborhood with local businesses, local community organizing, from doing Easter and Halloween events and all kinds of different events, to also acquiring a local community blog to promote the interests of the neighborhood. And of course, working with local ANCs, advisory neighborhood commissioners, and really trying to make my neighborhood and the experience of people living in my neighborhood very, very valuable. So I'm also a member of or on the board of directors for a local organization called We Are Family that delivers groceries to seniors in Columbia Heights, Shaw, Mount Pleasant, Adams Morgan. So, as being a realtor and having grown up in this area, I know the neighborhoods very, very well, from Montgomery County, DC, Northern Virginia. And I do realize that when people buy a home, they're not just buying a home, the brick and mortar, they're buying into a community filled with people. And so I love honoring that and honoring people and doing my best to bring them value and put them in, in places where they're going to really, truly enjoy their lives. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. Eddie, from Lima, Peru, who made his home in Petworth pre-pandemic in DC. And like many, he bought a new home during the pandemic and crossed the border into Chevy Chase, Maryland. Your support of many community events has truly made your smile recognizable all over DC. Eddie, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hello, everybody. And thank you for being part of this. This is phenomenal. I appreciate it, the invitation and being part of this phenomenal panel. So I'm Eddie Suarez. I was born in Denver, Colorado, but my story is completely different. I was shipped down to South America. So I grew up in Lima, in Peru. And then I wanted to come here when I was 18, and my mom was like, you're not going even to the corner. So I studied basically business. My major was marketing in the University of Lima. And then I came here back to the US with literally my passport and my social security and a lot of dreams. I was 26 and I got a job immediately after being graduated from business with compact computers. So they needed to develop Latin America from the US. And that's how my corporate experience started in Houston, Texas. And then compact computers, Hewlett Packard. And then when we decided to move here to the East Coast, a German software company in Reston, Virginia, hired me in the spot to develop Latin America, also again from the US. So how real estate became part of my life. My husband and I, we got married in 2010. We were one of the first gay couples to get married in the District of Columbia. And actually on Sunday is my anniversary, 12 years.
Oh,
No.
Thank you. And basically, I decided to start a new career, be local, because I was traveling all around Latin America, working crazy hours, all that stuff. And we adopted my daughter, Ariel. She was 3 years old in 2013. So with that, I made a full commitment that I'm going to raise this child and be present. And everybody was telling me then, it's like, you should be a realtor. And I literally transfer all my skills from the corporate world, working for IT corporations and all that stuff, and become now the realtor that I'm now. I'm working now with Compass. I'm part of a team called the Thrive team at Compass. And I enjoy, doing, several different events in the District of Columbia, especially in Petworth. And, love what I do. Thank you.
thank you, Eddie. Thank you all. I mean, and thank you for sharing such an abbreviated version of who you really are, of your full life.
It's hard.
It is. 2 minutes is not enough. But believe me, you all would want to spend time with, I had the privilege of spending some time with you all. It wasn't enough. But anyhow, a full disclosure, I serve on the D&I committee, as Harrison pointed out, and I could not resist to ask you a D&I question. So here's my question out to you all. Whoever wants to answer, please do. Since you began your career, how would you say that diversity, equity, and inclusion have evolved in our industry? Evolved enough whereas meaningful action is taking place? Would anybody like to take a stab?
Sure, I would say yes. For example, when I purchased my first home in 2008 in Petworth, legal marriage in the US was not legal completely. So from 2010 to today, it has been a big shift. And, being recognized as a couple, as a marriage, as a family have changed, I believe, the perception, not only from the buying side, selling side, but also as a realtor. So yeah, I would say that, thank goodness, I have not had, knock on wood, any bad experience about, my sexuality or my marriage status or whatever. But, I believe that, yes, it has been evolving dramatically, especially here in the US in this last decade.
I'd like to piggyback on what Eddie says. And the short answer, I agree with him, is yes. The industry has evolved. For example, financial institutions and ourselves as realtors in the community have created programs to promote homeownerships for underserved communities. And being in the industry, 15 years now, the difference that you've seen then and now is taking great strides. specifically towards the Latinos. You have so many tax ID programs, as well as foreign investor programs and low down payment programs, which have really helped our community. I'm connected with the experience home ownership sometimes, and I've seen the look on our community's faces when we tell them that there is an opportunity for them to achieve the American dream, even before they even thought that that was possible. So I definitely see great strides. I think there's a lot more ahead of us, and every day with local and national government, along with these financial institutions and us as real estate realtors and brokers, I think we're going to close that gap and really give the underserved community the possibility to achieve home ownership.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to?
I'm going to piggyback on Andres because it's something I was going to say myself about the programs out there that are there to help our community. But also I've seen a lot of lenders and brokerages hiring more Hispanic speaking agents to help the community. Even when I first started and I had a Latin client, they didn't have a lot of options to kind of shop the rate because there was not a lot of not a little type of realtors. A Latino, they feel comfortable getting educated or even speaking to somebody in their own language. But are we stopped? Are we is there room for better ourselves? Yes, I think so. I think there still are companies that don't have Latino speaking employers or agents. But I think it's getting better. Especially from the beginning when I first started 7 years ago.
That is true. And even institutions who fail us and fail our clients are getting caught and they're seeking consequences a lot quicker than they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. So even when they mess up, when I won't say the lender's name, but when the lender I'm talking about, they get caught, they're getting caught a lot quicker and people are standing up for themselves. So in terms of consumers. So in a way, I also agree with you all.
I would like to be, probably I'm not as aware of all these programs. So I think we need at least more education and on those programs. And also I believe, and I have the feeling that in this country, and especially in this city, in this area, everybody wants to, most of the people would like to be inclusive and, and equity. But I think as Latinos, maybe it's a criticism of myself, I need to be more active with the community. I would like to see more or know more and interact more with Latino agents, because if Latinos are growing and if Latinos are getting wealthier and if Latinos love homes because they live with their families in their homes. So we need to prepare for that and welcome non-Latinos, obviously. Everybody's welcome, but I need more education personally.
That's something that we should take note of at GCAAR. I think that's a good thing to think about for the future as the numbers are rising in terms of Hispanic homeownership. Staying in this conversation a little bit about, we live in a bubble in DC, and for the most part, I think for the most part, as you say, Ana Maria, people do want to be inclusive. They do. That's like the nature right now where everybody's talking about it. It's something that if they weren't aware of, they're like, oh yeah, that's a good thing, right? We've all experienced or witnessed overt or veiled racism, and we are now in the 21st century. And so I wanted to ask you guys, how do you handle these situations, whether personally or professionally, when you've seen it, when you're witness to it, or if it's happening? Sometimes one can be in shock and not know how to react. But so if it's not what you've experienced, how would you handle it?
I'll take this one. I like to focus on things that I can control versus things that I cannot control. I've never been able to control how people feel about me based on race, ethnicity, or the way that I look. So the only thing that I can do is control what I'm doing with myself, which is constantly educating myself and keeping up with market trends and strategy. That way I can enhance my client experience every step of the way. Now, that's not to say that I haven't been in situations where, you know, I know that I'm the more experienced agent vying for that listing and I don't get chose. But that's not going to stop me in my path, right? Like, I know that they're choosing me not based on experience, they're choosing me based on comfortability. And maybe some of that does have to do with culture and race. And that's okay. But I'm going to keep the momentum going and keep working and educating myself. So I am working with people that do want to work with me based on who I am.
That's great. That's great. Does anybody else have? Because this is great. This is how you, as you say, the things you can control. And that's really where we should always be putting our energy.
Something I can say is that, you know, we are hired to be buyers, selling agents, listing agents, because I think it's who we are, who we represent. And for example, in my case, I've been able to use social media as a platform where I can tell my story, tell who I am. So I prefer to work with people that know about myself, like my story, my family, and all that stuff. And I guess that have helped where I have not had that type of situation, if it makes sense.
That's another way of doing it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, oh, sorry, Lou.
Oh, I was going to say, the good news is, I think, you know, in terms of real estate transactions, we're, you know, our clients are buffered from potential racism, except for the fact that, you know, people can often infer things from people's names. So, you know, as a realtor, if I feel like there's a certain, if a client of mine is, I feel like they're not being treated fairly, thankfully, I can also, aside from, you know, thankfully, I don't feel like I've felt that, you know, I haven't felt that very often. But if I do, there are ways to handle it. For example, you know, talking to my broker who talks to the other broker, and we handle it that way. If I felt that I was being discriminated against as a realtor because of my ethnicity, which thankfully I haven't really felt that very often. I think that it's been, you know, once again, I have great resources here at Long & Foster. I'm able to talk to my broker, who's able to talk to the other broker. We're able to handle it in a professional way. And so I think I'm very fortunate, or we are very fortunate to have our levels of accountability in real estate. Now, I do notice that people often judge one another based on the way they speak and the way they look. And so, unfortunately, if a person has an accent, which I don't have a thick accent, you know, I've basically been here all my life. So, you know, that obviously helps me as well. So that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. And I mean, so many people in real estate have accents, you know, from all over the world, and you don't see it stopping them. You don't see them, you see them, you know, it's
Right.
So that's another mindset as realtors. We don't put that on us as a hindrance. We make it as a positive, because also we're in an international city. So
Exactly.
that also
We're a very diverse community in a very cosmopolitan area. That's
Correct.
for sure.
I am very happy to say that all 6 panelists are registered for the At Home with Diversity class. That's going to take place in October 19th and 20th. And the link is going to be put in the chat. So if you haven't registered, this is an opportunity for you to become a D&I champion. And I hope they'll all be D&I champions before the end of the month. Most of us are on teams, and or if we're not on teams, we're on teams or have the team experience. And so I guess what I wanted to ask from you all, and if you all can just chime in about this, is what are the strengths of your diverse team? And diverse doesn't mean necessarily Latino, or it could be gender, it could be, you know, everything under the umbrella. You know, what are the strengths representing a variety of backgrounds that can help your team or your office in terms of more sales, more opportunities to be in bidding for listings or buyers as well?
I would like to speak about it. I belong to a team where we really, that's our objective. Our objective is to be a group of females of very different backgrounds, ethnicities, professions, languages, and because it makes life so rich. And I've never felt any discrimination. On the contrary, it's very welcome. And I think in real estate is the perfect place where we can create that kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
I
can
think
also add something that, for example, in my team is called the Thrive Team. We are 7, and among ourselves as a group, we speak 15 languages. So, for example, I speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English, obviously. So we have other people that speak other different languages. So we can literally help a lot of people out there inside their communities. So it's really good because we collaborate and we help each other tremendously. So yes.
And I think, Eddie, you said it perfectly. We live in such a diverse community that you come across different walks of life every day. And
Correct.
when you have the support of a team that share many different cultural, I want to say riches, it really helps to be able to connect with people. For instance, I know on the Washingtonian group, we're all multicultural. We all speak several languages, but sometimes you engage with a culture maybe that you don't have that much experience in.
Correct.
And you can turn to your teammate and ask, what is a proper greeting? How do you hold the conversation? What is the sign of respect? Because as we know, through culture and different cultures, there's different practices. So when you're surrounded with people of many different cultures and you have that to lean on, like you said, within your community, your team, you can service the community and more importantly, show that respect to build that rapport.
Your audio went out, Andres. I didn't catch the last, what was the last thing you said?
I think you can rely on your team to share what that cultural respect is, how to communicate with them so that you can gain their trust, build that rapport, and then ultimately help them achieve homeownership.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So
I was going to say that whether it's,
I was
going to say that whether it's in a team or in an office, like even here recently in my office in Logan, there's an agent who was working with a lady who's from Bolivia. She works at the Bolivian embassy. He wasn't able to effectively communicate with her, and so he asked me to take over the client. So the point is that our goal as agents is to to take care of the people whom we represent. They're the focus. And if we ever find ourselves in that situation, I mean, all nations come to Washington, DC. We're very, very fortunate. We have all the embassies. It's an amazing place to live. And so when people come, and if I can't meet their needs, I'm able to get help from others, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is the best benefit here, living in Washington, DC. Yeah. So I was at a meeting this week where Boomer Foster was challenging us about our mindset. And it got me thinking, it's stuck with me each day, actually trying to practice some of what he focused on. And that then brought me here with you all, because it stayed with me for a couple of reasons. Number one, our industry is completely self-initiated, self-motivated, self-starting every single day. We are the ones who push ourselves. If you want to be great at business, you have to be the one to do it. So can you share with me your mindset? How do you, whether it be when things are going really well or when things are more challenging? So I guess sharing how is it that you set your mind? Like, how do you do it? How do you manage that?
I'll take this one. For me, I have to recenter and focus on the things that bring me happiness, which is family, faith, and fitness. It's the thing that motivates me daily and empowers me to be the best at what I do. So knowing that and knowing that my end goal is building a legacy that I can leave on, I have to think about that when I'm in those challenging moments. So, I have to hit the gym and relieve that stress, but also I can come home and spend time and with my kids, my husband, and regroup and regenerate and know that everything's going to be okay. I mean, I've been in the business for 20 years, so I remember when it was super high stress in the beginning and everything would, make me crazy. And then now I've been able to balance that, and take that moment and focus on the things that help me ground myself and get back to where I need to be the best version of myself.
When I grow up, I want to be Cher Castillo.
I will say family for me as well. Just now I have a 4-year-old, and being a role model for him is what wakes me up. And also, I want to give him everything that I never had. Right. I want to make sure that his life is set. He's doing, he's following the right steps. So family for me has, it's always going to be my number one. Also educating. And I know we talked about this when we first met, is educating the people. I think there's not a lot of people that are educating them. And helping them throughout this whole process, especially when you're buying the largest purchase of your life. But that gives me joy, just helping them understand the whole process of buying or selling a home.
Yeah.
For me,
I'm sorry, Ana Maria, por favor.
Gracias, Andres. I have like a kind of thing that I repeat myself, and is do it, even if you're scared, do it. So when things are not going well, I try not to get paralyzed. And I think that's something that we Latinos share. And I don't know if it's just Latinos, but it's just immigrants. We are risk takers. We can delay gratification. So we have a lot of things that help us go through difficult times. So I lean into those things thinking I am going to flourish, I am going to get there. And in good times also are challenging, and because, success is not just stacking chips, or golden bars.
Yeah.
And for us Latinos, I think also maybe for other people, but for us, I'm sure joy and family and community and belonging is super important. It doesn't matter how many chips you have in the bank. If you don't have those things, you don't have joy, and joy is very important. So it's just keep perspective. It's not about how many whatever I do. But how well I live those, so that's it.
I completely agree. I think that the right word that I always try to find is balance. Balance with life, balance with everything. And I completely agree. You can have all the money you want in the bank, and then something happened to you tomorrow and ping, everything is gone. I think that we have to live the moment. We have to enjoy our lives. And yes, my why personally is my family. Everything that I do and try to find these, and it's difficult, that balance. Sometimes I made an extra effort to be present with my children at dinner, at the events, at school. I think those are the most important things. And I'm thinking, I can do even more when they are bigger, but now these very important years of their life, I have to be there. And, I think that that's the most important thing, the balance that you put into work and your private life, your personal life.
I will say it's hard the first couple of years
Oh, totally.
Learning how to balance because you're just working, you're trying to build that book of business. And, you know, I will say, my son used to, when he started talking, he would just say, "Bye, daddy," because he would never see me. I was always working, hustling. But then you have to learn how to actually balance your life. Now, I eat dinner every day.
That's good. Yeah.
Andres, you were going to say something too.
I was going to say, I'll echo what everybody's saying, but you need to take time, especially in this industry that is absolutely crazy. It's everyone expects you to answer right away. You know, cell phones, it's a blessing, but it's a curse at the same time. You need to make time for yourself. And one thing that's helped me is, you know, taking back my mornings. My mornings was able to give me a time uninterrupted where I was able to not have to worry about phone calls. I'd be able to wake up and you do what makes you happy, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's reading, whether it's saying your affirmations. And I'd have to say that now I've created a life, a schedule that allows me to have me time in the morning. And part of that me time is driving my daughter to school, you know, having that time together in the car where we put on Encanto songs and we sing at the top of our lungs. And, you know, she just knows that we don't talk about Bruno, you know, and those are the things that really can set your day off on the right foot, because we know once we look at that phone, you know, your whole demeanor, your whole attitude can change. Yeah. So take time for yourself, even if it's waking up a little bit extra early, at least you'll have that time for you and for what brings you happiness.
Absolutely. So Harrison just said, wait, we don't talk about Bruno.
No.
I love how Encanto is, you know, the Encanto is now part of our lives in every household, whether you're Latino or non-Latino, everybody's singing it. It's beautiful. And you're right, Andres, that car ride. I will bring my child to school, even though we're 12 minutes away, I drive my child, because those conversations, you'll never get them back. And you know, I think that's wonderful that you're starting so early.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. All of those are very meaningful. And I think really important for agents, new agents, or agents who are seasoned, who really need to like slow it down and make that time for themselves. And I'm kind of talking about myself there. But something that, you know, we're in right now is this mindset also helps us for things like the current state of the market where we're in. In 2020 and 2021, we experienced likely our busiest, best, and most creative sales of our careers. And by January 2022, I mean, sales were escalating on unimaginable heights. And then the Fed came in and changed the tone and the turf. And we are now in a market correction. I'm not going to label it all the things that economists, because economists are still fighting it out of what it is, but we know it in real estate as a market correction. Tell me, how are you dealing with this market correction?
Well, I guess I'll start. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. That's fine.
Well, I was going to say, you know, we have different ways of calling what's happening right now. But in my opinion, and maybe you guys share the same sentiment, I think the market is normalizing. I think we just came through a strong bull market that, I mean, it absolutely made trends spike, but now I think we're scaling back, we're adjusting, we're shifting, we're doing whatever you want to call it, but I think we're normalizing. I think people still need homes. I think it's true affordability has been hit, and we aren't trading at the speed, you know, post-pandemic, as you mentioned. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve the community, and people need homes. So, you know, we've all been in the industry long enough to have served in multiple different markets before. It's never fun when it's changing as fast as it is, but changing markets are fine. You know, I think you need to educate. I think you need to get creative. And I think this is where value add is so important for not only your team, but your clients and yourself. So knowledge is power.
Absolutely. I'm gonna piggyback on that because people do need homes, and okay, the rates are, you know, it's gonna be fine. Rentals are gonna go higher. So people are gonna be like, oh, okay, hold on a second. If I get a house, I'm gonna be paying this month, but if I rent, I'm just giving out this much money. I feel like landlords are going to start increasing rent, and that's when people are going to start realizing, hey, listen, I should buy, right? Especially now, I feel like there's going to be more homes for people to actually choose from. There's going to be they're going to be able to get a better price on maybe or not. But I feel like if they're just if you educate them, like Andres says, they're going to have the opportunity to refinance in the future.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
they're going to actually live in a house that they've always wanted to live in, and they're going to be a homeowner.
Yeah, and I think we've all had the exercise to recalibrate, readjust, reorganize, and we've been through this before, many cycles. You know, we've had 9/11, 2008, the pandemic. So I think we've all realized this is business for us. This is everyday business for us. We don't have much time. So I want to get a couple more questions in before our time is up. So excuse me if I jump to the next thing, but I wanted to talk about how Latinos, we don't have the trademark of close-knit families, but undeniably, good or bad, family is the centerpiece and is the most important thing to us. And what I'm seeing and what in our conversations that we had and conversations I'm having with other agents, what are you seeing, or are you seeing with regards to higher interest rates and higher sales prices, multi-generational buyers? Are you seeing that? Is that something that is going to become a trend? Do you think that will be taking off?
Could I? So I think, I personally live with my mom and she's lived with me for quite some time, which is great. I think, Latinos often live in intergenerational situations, which is fantastic, pulling resources, being with one another, teaching our children how to respect and love and honor the older people in our family and to learn from them. I love it. And I think as a result of COVID, it's very clear that people have, because they had to, have had to move back in with their families. So it's just not a Latino thing, but I think in general, the entire nation has experienced more intergenerational families, which is a very exciting thing. And I think very valuable for our United States culture, honestly.
How many of you are living in multi-generational or two? Andres, no?
I'll be there soon, as soon as this house is done being built.
Oh, that's right. You're building the apartment next. Okay, or house, little house. Okay, got it. Yeah, and I think that I'm seeing the same thing. Are you all? Yes, no?
I'm experiencing it with my buyers. A lot of them are looking for bigger basements, walkouts. That's what they're looking for now.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing
but now
that too.
everyone's Ramblers are super popular because they have such a big basement, and also because their parents are living with them. They want to make sure they don't have to go up and down the stairs. So they can live upstairs. But a walkout basement is a number one in a lot of my buyers list. So yes.
Yeah.
And what I have seen also is that a lot of people are looking, for example, having a 1-bedroom, a full bath in the first floor, so they can also age in place.
Yeah.
So that's another concept that a lot of people are applying now. During the pandemic, I think that the pandemic have recalibrate absolutely everybody's perspectives and going back to, hey, let's live together. Like what Lou was saying, we're happy together, seriously. And I believe that, a lot of people are doing that now with every different background and cultural backgrounds.
I have several clients that I think one thing, and they're not Latinos, and the kids came back home.
Yeah.
And of the ones that I've heard, nobody's upset about it. Everybody is absolutely fine with it, which I find so wonderful.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Yeah. Typically our culture is that you would stay home until you got married. And unless you grew up in the United States, things would be different. But if you were in the home countries, that's something that was typical. So It's interesting to see some American values leaning towards that. And maybe the pandemic pushed us in that direction. So I think this may be our last question, even though I've enjoyed very much hearing from all of you. If there's one piece of advice that you could give to a Latino realtor or just a new realtor coming out in the field, what would you give? What kind of advice would you give to them? Maybe things that you wish you knew, or just any, piece of gold that you now know and now cherish. I know you've mentioned some things that could lean to that, but anything that you would offer?
Yeah, I would definitely say never change who you are or what you stand for as it relates to being Latino. Whether you have an accent or maybe family comes first in terms of answering or not answering that phone call, or however you display your culture, I think it's important to stand proud and enter the field knowing that you are just as deserving and capable as every other race and ethnicity out there.
Excellent.
I will say, keep on moving forward. There is a light on the other end. It's okay not to sell a house for the first year. Your job is to actually learn as much as possible and educate not yourself. Yes, and educate yourself with the contract, neighborhoods, but just keep moving forward.
Never forget where you came from. As you move forward, our goal is to, always keep our roots, are grounded. I mean, that's who we are. Somos Latinos pa eso. We keep our roots strong and we never give up on the people that helped get us started. Our goal is always to grow and jump into different tiers of price points and other things like that, but never forget where you came from. Those are the people that helped you when you were first starting. So always give back to them.
Get back into that. My favorite word is just stay humble.
Stay humble.
Absolutely. Stay truthful to yourself, to your family, and just be yourself. I think that shows inside, outside of the transaction, with your colleague, with your neighbors. Just be yourself.
That's so right. I mean,
And
I would also add that we have to get involved in our communities as well. So that's a good way to stay truthful to ourselves and give back to the community. That's how we also grow our business and ourselves.
Ana Maria.
I just want to remind everybody that, really look at your clients or at your colleagues and look who they are. And keep that connection, keep that connection. That human connection is so primal and strong and will make us all better.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today, for sharing your insights, those beautiful smiles. I'm just very grateful and thankful to Shaisha, to Diana, to all of you for being here today and for sharing your insight. And just one last thing, I just want to take this moment to send our heartfelt wishes and safety for shelter for all of those Floridians who are affected by the hurricane. It sounds like it's pretty bad out there. So I know most of us have family in Florida, so wishing the very best for you all. Thank you all. Thank you, GCAAR.
Thank you, GCAAR.
Aisha, did you want